Hello, 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 guys, and welcome back to Joe's Adventures. And today, look what we're playing. We are playing the Prehistoric Kingdom Alpha. And this has been a long time coming, but I'm really excited to give this a play. And really, I'm going to make a zoo after this, but I thought, let's give everyone a showcase, learn a little bit about it, what the wonderful animals we have in the Alpha. And yeah, so we're going to get started with our little mini exhibit here. You can see. Let's zoom in here. We can have a look at. Oh, I'm going to pick one animal. We have little Microraptors, and look how cute they are, sleeping in their little cute little house. Let's see if we can get one flying. There we are, eating from the little bowl there. Let's see if we can get one flying about. There's got to be one flying about. There you are. See them preening. So, Microraptor, very, very cool little dinosaur. This is from Liaoding, China. They date from the 120 million years ago, and they're one of the really first. Oop, that was a bit weird. I want to get you. So we see preening again. Look at that, aren't you wonderful? Really fix up the wings too. So these guys are from 120 million years ago, from the early Cretaceous, and there are three different species, and this one's Microraptor goonie. Let's see if you follow if you fly, but this is Microraptor goonie, and we can see that they're very famous for having these four wings. You can see there's the wings on here, and then there's the wings on the back of the legs there that they use to glide. And we can see this wonderful tail fan that they have. It really is cool. It really is a wonderful little birdie boy. So these guys have been preserved with these feathers, and this gives a lot of credence to the idea that birds evolved from dinosaurs. And these guys may have been able to give power flight, but we don't know. But yeah, there's quite a few known specimens, including one that preserves the colors. So this is why we know that this, at least Microraptor goonie, was this color of like kind of an iridescent crow kind of black, along with the design of the tail feathers here. That makes it look very, very visually interesting. We have quite a few dinosaurs that we know the colors of now because of the melanosomes. And these guys got to about 600 to 700 grams in mass, so a little under a kilo, and about 65 centimeters long, with adult specimens being up to 77. And yeah, it's pretty cool little guy, and there is variation within their size, of course. And these guys kind of just glided wherever they could. They put their wings up and glided, and maybe even a little bit of powered flight to where they can. Fed on whenever they could, maybe small lizards, insects, even fish. There has been some evidence to suggest that they were fish eaters, so they most likely just eating whatever they could fit in their mouths, like most things. But yeah, fish, reptiles, small reptiles, all sorts. And we also know that they could have mostly swallowed their prey head first, in modern birds that kind of just swallow their prey head first, and may have died shortly after this, because this was in a fossil. And even there was a new species of lizard that was described from the gut of a Microraptor. So that's pretty interesting. I want to see if I can get one of you flying. Or just missed you flying. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Look at the one hanging out there. Isn't that cute? Look at this happy boy. He's like, hello, I am your friends. Ooh. I want to try and get one flying. Probably not a big fan of flying. You gonna fly? Come on, do it for me. Do it for me, please. Pretty please. Well, they're very, very cute. I think we all can agree. Yeah, I think we need to move on. These guys aren't flying for me. If you have the alpha, you can watch them fly for yourself. Anyway, so now we're going to move on to our next habitat animal. This is the mini exhibit. We're going to move to the next habitat animal. We have got Nasutoceratops. So this is a very cool guy. We've got 3 skins here. This one is called Amber. And I really like the pattern on the frill there. And I love the texture. I like the texture around the head there. Really wonderful looking animal. And guess what? They have the correct feet! The correct feet's always awesome. This one's called Wildberry. And you can see it's like very purplish. And it looks quite nice. Fits really well. And let's see what the next one is. This one's called Mint. Because it is mint. It is excellent. It's got that greenish tinge to it. I think it looks awesome. I really just love the texture around the brow horns there. So, the Nasutoceratops was an early ceratopsian. Not like early. It's from it's a basal centrosaurine, so it's related to animals like Centrosaurus and the next one coming up, that lived in the late Cretaceous period of about 76 to 75 million years ago in southern Utah. And is really, really distinct because of its horns. This kind of looks like a bull. It's got like bull horns. That's what really makes it distinct from other ceratopsians. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And these guys got to about 1.5 meters long, so they weren't ridiculously huge. That's the skull, I mean. And these guys got to about 4.5 meters long in body length. And got up to about 1.5 tons, so a little bit bigger than your average cow, about the size of a rhinoceros. So nothing too extreme. Let's move on to another one. It's another Wildberry. You can see the difference between the males and the females in size. So these guys here, very basal centrosaurine, and these guys lived at the Kaparowitz Formation and around 76 to 74 million years ago during the late Cretaceous. This is when this was located on the western shore of the interior... Oh, it's loud. In the interior seaway, not stairway. There's no stairs in the Cretaceous. And these guys lived in a very, very rich paleo environment with swamps and ponds and lakes, and with highlands bordering it. And yeah, we have animals like troodontids, ornithomimids, Tyrannosaurus like Tetraphonius, Parasaurolophus as well. This guy will go well with Parasaurolophus. And we have Cosmoceratops and Utaceratops living with it as well. And yeah, very, very rich formation with a lot of different animals. So yeah, this is a very, very cool guy. I really like this guy, he's cool. A very good starting animal, not particularly huge. But I love the sounds they make too. And now let's move on to the next guy. We have got Styracosaurus. So let's go through the skins first. This is Shoreline, we can see the male. I really like this one. It came out well. I can see the brightness of the spikes there. And I really like these quills too. These quills aren't really... not really quills, they say. I'd say they're kind of like a speculative extension of the nipple scales that have been seen in animals like Triceratops. And I think they fit Styracosaurus quite well. There's not really any evidence for that within Styracosaurus, but I think it really adds a lot to the personality of the animal. So this is jagged. No, this is not jagged. This is Shoreline. And this one is jagged. Yeah, this one is jagged. I really like the pattern of this one. What are you doing walking into the wall there? That's the female. And there's difference in some of them with the males and females. So let's see if we can find the male. Here's the male. You can see he's got this like bluish, pinkish on the front of the face. I think came out look really nice. And then we have Psychedelic. So this is Psychedelic. This is the female I mean. Not quite as bright as the male, and as we'll go see. And yeah, just really love the texture. It looks awesome. Especially if you compare this to the first like iterations of these animals. They just look so much better. Heard that. And this is the male. Really, really bright. But not too saturated. I love it. Wonderful. You're just going to hear me say I love it a lot with these. It just is what it is. And yeah, these guys are quite famous. Their name means spike lizard in Latin. These guys are from the Cretaceous period as well, around the same time as the Nasutoceratops, but lived in a different place. They have these really long spikes on their neck frill around here. Kind of gives them their charismatic look. They stood up to about 1.8 meters tall, or 5'9", so about the height of a person. And they were very, very interesting boys, weren't they? And there's been other genera involved with them, like Rubeosaurus. So these guys got up to about a little bit bigger than Nasutoceratops. These guys got about 5.5 meters long, and adults have been estimated to weigh about 2.7 tons. So about the size of a small elephant, probably. And these are very superficially similar to rhinoceros, and he's just like sitting there. Look at that! Look at that strut. He just has that Chad aura. So yeah, these guys have also been part of a lineage. There's like a lineages of different guys. These may have been split into different centrosaurians. And especially there's a new described species in 2020 of Styracosaurus, which is believed to be a really early member. Could have been developed into like Styracosaurus, Anatotitan, and Tyrannosaurus, which is not this guy, but another interesting thing. These guys are also found in the Dinosaur Park Formation, and there has been a little bit of controversy whether they've been herding or not. They may have been a lot more solitary than other ceratopsians. Centrosaurians may have generally been quite herd-oriented, but they may have also just been died at a waterhole when they congregated in a flash flood or something. There's really not really a good way to tell, but obviously good variation within species. There's some species that are obviously very social and even within the same genera, and some are not. So it really just is up to the personal interpretation. Look at these wonderful guys. Look at him. He's wonderful. I think we're going to move to another one just to break the monotony in the scenery. Where's the next one? Here's another shoreline. Marty. Good boy. So these guys were herbivorous dinosaurs, most likely fed on the ground, sort of not really grazing because there's not really much grass in the Cretaceous, but they ate things like palms and cycads, while the hadrosaurs may have been more browsers and feeding a little bit higher. And these guys just have these really, really charismatic frills. There's even one specimen that was found to have a grow wrong, so it has like a funky spike, just because kind of two connected to one, because there is sometimes the osteoderms that are in the skin and kind of just connect to the frill. So it's very interesting to see that variation within them. And these guys lived in a dinosaur park formation, which is very, very well documented. They lived with animals like Parasaurolophus, Gorgosaurus, the Spletosaurus, Edmontonia, Euoplocephalus, Lambeosaurus, so we'll see him soon, and other centrosaurians like Centrosaurus, and also a Chasmosaurian, there's Chasmosaurus. So yeah, very, very rich ecosystem there, and a very, very wonderful boy. And these are very, very nice skins as well. You should feel happy. Do you feel happy? Yes, you do. You should be. Okay, now let's move on to Edmontosaurus. So there's 3 species of Edmontosaurus here. Look, we have got, this one is E. regalis. So E. regalis is sort of like the mid-tier skin. Regalis is the graveled skin. And we can see that they have soft tissue comb here. We actually have evidence of this in well-preserved Edmontosaurus specimens, along with this called a hoof that they got there, which is pretty cool. So this is the male, and these guys lived a little bit earlier than anectons. These guys lived about 73 million years ago, and didn't get quite as big as anectons. These guys got about 12 meters long and weighed about 4 tons. And yeah, that's the largest specimens, but average probably about 9 meters. So these guys are found in like also in like. Trying to remember. These guys are found around the Western Interior Seaway as well, kind of found in all sorts of different formations, like these guys are found with Pachyrhinosaurus, especially around like up in... You're interrupting me. These guys are found also up in Canada with the species quote unquote. I'll get into that when we get into Ugranalic, quote unquote. These guys lived with Saurolophus, Pachyrhinosaurus, Euoplocephalus, Edmontonia, all sorts of different guys. And yeah, these are just really, really cool. They found a horseshoe as well. Horseshoe is a wonderful formation. Not quite as... It's kind of in a different area as in Dinosaur Park, and I believe slightly... not slightly, but about the same age. So really gives you a good breadth of how you could track evolution over time with these different species. Yeah, this is the male here. Let's have a look at the female. Where's the female? Let's oh, there's an ectins there. This is the female. You can see the size difference with these guys. What's funny is that there's variation within individuals. So you can see this is a particularly small male, and this is a particularly large female. And I think that's quite funny. It just worked out that way. And yeah, this is a really wonderful specimen, we can see that we got these round scales here, and the male has the crest. This gives a little bit more sexual dimorphism, because why not? And next we have got Ugronalic. So the thing is with Ugronalic or Cupanensis, these guys are pretty much, they were described, I believe, 2015 or a little bit earlier than that. Oh, you're saving. So these guys were originally described as their own genera, but it turns out these guys were most likely a northern population of Anectens. But yeah, it's still a really wonderful little model. These guys are the smallest out of the 3 Edmontosaurus species, but still look great. Really wonderful little guy. This is the male. There's a find the female. Here comes Anectens over here. Where is the other one? There. See, very small, but look very great. These guys would fit well with Pachyrhinosaurus and other things, since they have been known to live up in Canada, which was pretty cool at the time. It wouldn't have been cold as today, but there was still get below freezing, so dinosaurs had to deal with the cold there, and there may have been glaciers as well. And yeah, now we've got the final and our largest species. This is Eonectens. So this is the one that lived with T-Rex in the Hell Creek and Lance formations. So these guys were big, big, big. These guys, you also remember them as like Trachodon or Anatotitan. And sometimes they've been used as Anatosaurus to split into a different genera. But not a lot of people follow this. It really just depends on your personal opinions on that or whatever. But for the game, it's most likely, and the most likely a guess or assumption, I would say assumption, is that it belongs into Edmontosaurus. So these guys are very, very cool. Found, obviously, Lance formation, and found with pretty good preserved skin as well. This is the species where we got the hoof from, and also got kind of this nice segmented like thing going on with the back. Looks great. Got the terms for it, but these guys also got really, really big. There has been evidence of individuals that have got up to about 15 or 14 meters long, and potentially rival even things like Sachungosaurus, probably even bigger than Sachungosaurus, which is sort of like the Asian version of Edmontosaurus. Very, very big animals. And we have a pretty good growth series out of these guys. So these guys, most likely, the thing with dinosaur ecosystems is that most of these really big individuals would have been very, very rare, and most animals in the population would be young animals. They would get picked off in their first few years of life by predators, and the very lucky ones would get to be big enough and ugly enough to breed and become these big individuals. So yeah, these guys are really known from the latest rocks of the Cretaceous around the late Maastrichtian, from Hell Creek, Lance formations, and the Frenchman formation. These guys lived with animals that, if you've played Sauron, you know a lot of these guys. These guys are like Thescelosaurus, Taurosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, Ankylosaurus, and of course Tyrannosaurus, along with Dakotaraptor and Pteranodon, and Ornithomimus. So these guys kind of maybe have migrated. There's evidence that they may have been more inland compared to things like ceratopsians, like Triceratops and Taurosaurus. They may have lived a lot more inland and kind of fed on acacia trees and hardwood and all sorts of different browsing plants, while the ceratopsians may have been more coastal and fed on the plants there. Though there is, of course, mix and match. It isn't like a solid thing. But yeah, a really, really wonderful guy. I like him a lot. And now we're on to our next hadrosaur. We have got Lambeosaurus. So we've got Lambeosaurus lambe. A very, very cool boy. Now this guy has a bit of a troubled history. This is because it's there's been a lot of species described, but turns out a lot of the species were actually either sexual dimorphism or young individuals, like ontogeny, as they were growing up. So really the only species recognized is Lambe and Magicoritis, or however you pronounce it, but even that's a bit shaky. This is kind of the real only confident species described. So these guys are also found in Dinosaur Park, along with Styracosaurus back there. And this skin I believe is equine in This one is chestnut. You can see the variation. You can see this one's quite yellowish, and this one's a little bit more orange. See the variation within the individuals. And where's the blue one? This one shows it off quite well. This is the female. This female's quite like a dark grey. And if you compare it to the male, where's the male? Male is over here. You can see it's got this really, really bright blue. And it's particularly bright blue. And it looks really nice. I'm not really a fan of blue on dinosaurs, but as a skin, it does look really nice. And this is the point, that you have multiple skins for a reason. If you want to have a bright one, you can have a normal, like, assumption one, and then you can have, like, another weird pattern one. It's good to have that variation for people. See, there's been a lot of study into this guy because there's a lot of specimens, but obviously different ontologies and such. So these guys got pretty big. These guys got pretty large. The large adult specimens got to about 7 meters long. Not quite as long as a Nectens or these other Edmontosaurus, but a lot more taller and compact. Don't quite have that long tail. But still very, very big. And quite similar to Crestosaurus. And we even have impressions of scales that showed they had this quite thick skin with uniform polygonal scales that seem to have just gone down the torso. So yeah, it looks quite great. And he's sleeping. Very, very cute. Let's move on to our bright blue male. I think he looks great. No. No, stop. There we are. You can see him grazing in the corner there. So these guys are quite basal in the Lambeosaurus group. They're kind of like in between Magnipolia and Velifrons, and then in kind of these two species of Lambeosaurus came, and then Tyrannosaurus and Anatotitan kind of came afterwards, so they're quite basal in their group. So yeah, these guys would have been quite similar. They would have eaten, I believe, to have some sort of chewing, not as complex as mammalian chewing, but kind of just dental batteries to be able to better crunch down plants that they were eating. They had these obviously very, very interesting cool crests that they use for communication. Could be both visual and audible, what he's going to call. That's a great call, I love it. And we show that they grow over time. If you compare the babies to the adults, they tend to have a very different one. That's why we had so many species described. It was actually just the growth series. Yeah, these guys are from Dinosaur Park, found with Styracosaurus, Chasmosaurus, Centrosaurus, Procerolophus, Parasaurolophus, Gorgosaurus, Edmontonia, Yelpocephalus, and this would have been also on the Western Terran Seaway, kind of on the west. And it would have been quite warm, there'd be no frost, and all sorts of tree ferns and angiosperms, and all sorts of different foods for these guys. And yeah, very, very wonderful animals. Very, very great. I like just watching them graze. I love the chestnut. Chestnut looks great. Look at this wonderful, wonderful one. And he's chilling as well. I like the aura of these guys. So now we're going to move to big bads, where we've got Tarbosaurus. This is the scorched skin. And we can see the female's actually slightly larger than the male. So Tarbosaurus is a very close relative of course, Tyrannosaurus rex, that lived in the Namek Formation, I believe. Well, just in Mongolia at least. And these guys were very similar to T-Rex, but had like slightly different. They weren't quite as big and bulky. They were a lot leaner. They're actually more similar to things like Carodontosaurs, which most likely, considering the animals it lived with, were a lot more larger and not quite as spiky and hard to bite in as in the animals that lived with Tyrannosaurus, like Ankylosaurs and Ceratopsians. These guys lived with more sauropods and things like that, and hadrosaurs. Yeah, it's very interesting history, and we even have some skin impressions, especially with the evidence of... There has been skin found from the Gula pouch that suggests the Gula pouch. Might not be to that extent that Prehistoric Kingdom reconstructed it as, but I think it's still pretty cool how they managed to put it in. And yeah, these guys were only slightly smaller than Tyrannosaurus. These guys got about 10 to 12 meters long, and may have got 4 to 5 metric tons. So maybe very similar length, slightly shorter, maybe a couple meters, and only a ton or two, a few tons smaller, just not quite as big and imposing, but still a very, very scary animal. I want to be chased by one. So we can have a look at the female here. Move to the male. This is the male. Where's the male? There's the male. Because he's got a very orange... I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, so these guys, of course, lived in the Namek, along with animals like Dinochirus, Nemectosaurus, which is a sauropod, Saurolophus. So yeah, that's kind of very differently adapted. That's a nice roar. I like it. I like it, lovey. And also founded the Jejebel Formation. And yeah, very, very cool guys. Lived in the late Cretaceous about 70 million years ago. A little bit older than Tyrannosaurus itself. And kind of fed on all sorts of different things. There was also Tyrannosaurus lived with it. There was also Prenocephaly, Nemectosaurus. Alioramus was another small Tyrannosaurid it lived with. So yeah, very, very interesting ecosystem that it lived in. And a very, very wonderful animal as well. And then we can move on to our big bad. We all know our big bad boy here. We have Tyrannosaurus. So we're going to have a look at the skins. This is... What was this one? I believe this one's molten. Yeah, this is molten. I really like this. I really liked how this one came out, like this particular individual. This has like quite a bright orange look to it. This is the male, of course. That's molten. This is good old not featherhide, leatherhide. This is like the quintessential Prehistoric Kingdom Rex skin. Isn't that right, Aiden? I think that looks really, really great on him. It looks wonderful. And we've got another nice skin. Whereas this is Brumal. Now, Tyrannosaurus feathers are still a subject of not quite a big debate as it was, but there's still some debate and talk about how it can work. There is potentially maybe places on the body that could have feathers. So it's really just more evidence is needed. So having both interpretations, especially with this Brumal skin that looks really nice, all came out really, really well. So why not? And so, we all know Tyrannosaurus. We'll have a look at... Where's Aiden again? We can see the variation within them. So, Tyrannosaurus obviously lived in the late Cretaceous of North America, the latest Cretaceous, from 69 to 66 million years ago. Lived with animals like Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, and Nectens, Dakotaraptor, animals like that. Very, very wonderful. Look at that. Look at that energy. I think he's cute. I know the devs were like, we want to make him look ferocious and scary, but I gotta be honest, he still looks kind of cute. Look at him. He's big boy. He's like the same way a tiger or a lion is cute. You know they'll kill you, but they just have so much personality. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say. So these guys got very, very big. The biggest individuals we have are about 12 to 13 meters long. And got up to about 4 meters at the hip, not the shoulder. And the largest estimates have been from 8.4 metric tons to 14 metric tons, even though the most recent estimates put somewhere between 6 to 9 tons. So that seems like the most realistic place. And the thing about Tyrannosaurus as well is the strongest bite force of any dinosaur, with up to, I think, 4 tons or so, but not strong enough to bite through pretty much in metals and cars and stuff, so very, very powerful. And the thing about Tyrannosaurus as well, it's a very specialized, even though people think it's overrated, even for a dinosaur, a large theropod dinosaur, it's very weird. It's weird because it's adapted this bone-crushing, not integument, but bone-crushing ability, because a lot of other large theropod dinosaurs lived in ecosystems with large animals like hadrosaurs and sauropods, which are obviously big and fleshy, and so they had dentition and anatomy that allowed them to, like, rip off flesh. Well, this guy was living with... That was a nice roar. This guy was living with ankylosaurs and ceratopsians, which are obviously very spiky and very hard to bite into, so it clearly evolved this very, very strong bite to help bite into these animals. And yeah, T-Rex is probably the most studied dinosaur of all time. You could probably make a whole, like, 20-30 minute video talking about this animal. But I don't want to talk too much about this guy because I want you guys to experience it for yourself and learn about it yourself. That's always good to learn about. And I can't wait for the Paleopedia. That'll come out hopefully in the beta or the early access. I'm not sure when, but you'll be able to read up all about this animal. So yeah, I have a look at Molten. I really like this. I love the keratin as well. I love the keratin on the face. It really just makes it look gnarly. And yes, the lips. I was personally against the lips, but it's not really a big issue, honestly. It's kind of just add to the personality. And yeah, it's a matter of personal opinion in terms of design. Accuracy of it is probably not the most accurate, but then again, we also have fluffy... Okay, to get interrupted again, we have Fluffy Packy, which is possible. We know that Ornithischians had integument like that. It is possible, it's just kind of assuming a little bit too much in my opinion, but doesn't really impact the game that much. It's lips on a model of one animal. It's not going to impact the game that much when you've got so much more to go with. So yeah, it's not really a big issue. So yeah, I think this is about the end of the video now. I think we have got ourselves in a good place. We talked about everything. So yeah, I really hope you guys managed to get the alpha before the alpha's gone. So I hope you guys are having fun with it. And what we're going to do a full zoo. I'm going to mix in, until we get Planet Zoo stuff done, we're going to do a mix of like Planet Zoo and Prehistoric Kingdom. We're going to be making enclosures and doing mod spotlights and all that, and it's going to be wonderful. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to click that little bell icon so make sure you get notified whenever I upload anything. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. If you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.